Hi friends, are you worried that you're not getting enough protein? Let me show you what I have on my plate and let's go over how much protein is just on my plate with a few snacks. Let's start with this bread. This is an Ezekiel multigrain bread. It has 5 grams of protein per slice. Now in a day, we're supposed to get 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So for the average female, that's roughly about 46 grams of protein. And for men, it's about 56 grams of protein. So this is 5 grams. Now if I ate a quarter cup of walnuts, right, just a handful of walnuts, this is actually 5 grams of protein, okay? So just these two things is 10 grams of protein. Now if I ate a quarter cup of pistachios, this is 6 grams of protein. So between walnuts, pistachios, and a slice of bread, I have already 16 grams of protein. Now let's say I sprinkled some nutritional yeast on this bread and these nuts. This is 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. This is, believe it or not, 5 grams of protein for 2 tablespoons, right? Very, very little. And then let's say I sprinkled some wheat germ on my food. This is about 1.5 tablespoons. So this is 7 grams of protein, very little. So far I have 7 grams plus 5, that is 12. 12 plus another 5, that is 17. 17 plus another 6, that is 21. And 21 plus another 5, that's 26 grams of protein. And in a day, I just need 20 more grams of protein, right? So that's where if I ate a whole can of beans, now I don't eat a whole can of beans in a sitting, but I'll eat it throughout the day. This can of bean has 3.5 servings. Half a cup is 7 grams of protein. So if I ate this throughout the day, let's say in hummus, or I ate a bean salad, this would be 24.5 grams of protein for this can of beans. So if I just ate this little bit of food, I pretty much would meet my daily protein needs, 46 grams of protein. Now, if I had to heal a wound, if I was pregnant, let's say if I was exercising, I probably need a little bit more. If I'm bodybuilding, I would need more, roughly about 1 gram of protein, maybe a little bit more than that, to 1.5 grams at most. So the point is, it's not difficult to meet your RDA requirements of protein, but most people are probably not eating this. You're probably, let's say, eating a boiled egg. This boiled egg has 6 grams of protein, my wheat germ 1.5, so it's about 7 grams of protein. It's still less food than this egg, but I actually have more protein than the egg. But most people don't just eat an egg. They're probably eating something like this. Cornflakes. Cornflakes has 3 grams of protein per 1.5 cups, okay? Okay, so 1.5, so I basically have to pour in 3 cups. 1, I'm making a mess. So you would have to eat an entire plate of cornflakes to get the same amount of protein that a quarter cup of pistachios will give you. This is why we're getting in metabolic trouble, because we're overeating on the carbohydrates with very little fiber. I think this whole serving, this is 1.5 cups is 1 serving, okay? This has 1 gram of dietary fiber. This is not enough fiber for the day. You would have to eat so much more, like 36 of these servings to get 36 grams of fiber, at least about what people should be getting. Now, if you upgraded your flakes to these heritage flakes, which has 7 grams of fiber per 1 cup, and it also has 5 grams of protein per 1 cup, right? So these heritage flakes have just about as much protein as this plate of cornflakes. And if you wanted to even upgrade this concoction with something that has even more protein, then you may want to try Ezekiel Golden Flax. It's a sprouted whole wheat, flaxseed, barley, millet, sprouted lentils, soybeans, and it has, let's say, half a cup, has 7 grams of fiber and 8 grams of protein. So let me pour out half a cup so you can see how much that is. This is half a cup. Half a cup, 8 grams of protein, has more protein than the heritage flakes, which is a full cup, to have 7 grams of protein, which has more protein than cornflakes, which is basically 3 cups full to give you 6 grams of protein. And so if you wanted to eat a breakfast cereal, these are some healthier options that'll give you more protein. Now the reality is people are not eating this. What are they eating then? Potato chips. These are not my potato chips. Although they are sweet potato chips, they're still potato chips fried in oil. And sweet potatoes, one serving is about 14 chips. And I'll tell you how many grams of protein is in 14 chips. If I had 14 chips, it would only have 1 gram of protein. Okay, and on top of that, it has 9 grams of fat. How much fat did Ezekiel have? Ezekiel had 3 grams of fat. Heritage Flakes had 1.5 grams of fat. Corn Flakes, they had no fat, negligible fat, because it's basically processed corn. The problem with these chips is not only is it low in protein, but it's so dense in calories because it's full of fat. Now it's fried in vegetable oil, which is still fatty. It has less saturated fat, but it has fat. And fat has the most calories out of all the macronutrients between protein and carbohydrates. So if you want to get your fix on protein, I would recommend a whole food, more nutritious source of protein, and leave the processed stuff behind because you're just going to eat more calories when you eat these things. And should you even be looking for high protein foods? And it depends. If you're eating on this side, full of snacks and carbohydrates, I would say yes. You should be looking for high protein foods. But if you're eating on this side, full of beans, nuts and seeds and legumes and grains, then you probably don't need to be looking for high protein. You've been told that protein is a holy grail of health. Muscle, fat burning, hunger killing. That more is always better. But here's what no one is saying. We're overdosing on it. Quietly, steadily, and dangerously. While influencers flex protein shakes and steak stacks, research is stacking up on other things. Cancer risk, faster aging, shorter lives. Not in 30 years, now. The average American eats over 100 grams of protein a day, most of it from animals. And it's not coming from clean, whole foods. It's protein powders, it's jerky sticks, it's processed bars with ingredient lists longer than your grocery receipts. And here's the twist. This isn't about quitting protein. It's about choosing the right kind. Because the type of protein you're eating could be the silent factor behind how long you live, how well you age, and whether you're fueling your body or slowly wrecking it. Think protein equals health? It's time to look again. The key to protein is eating enough. So how much protein do you need? In order to determine that, you have to understand that protein makes a scaffolding of your entire body. Not just your muscles, but your bones and your skin. It's an integral part of your immune system, your endocrine system, and your metabolism. And without enough protein, you'll be prone to infections and struggle to recover. And you'll look wasted at the extreme end of protein deficiency. But we don't have that problem. We have an excess. There is no evidence that excess protein is good for your body. 100 grams of protein is nearly double what most people need. Now, I'm going to be a little bit technical because protein is complex. And if this bores you, that's okay. Just skip to the next chapter. But really, everybody should understand and know exactly how much protein their body needs because you want to make sure you get enough, but not too much. And if you don't want to calculate your protein needs, you can always go see your medical doctor or a nutritionist or a dietitian. But it's kind of like financial planning. If you don't take charge of your retirement account and save and invest, well, who's going to do it for you? You don't want to wake up one day in retirement and run out of funds. Same thing. You don't want to wake up one day and run out of health. So getting your protein right is planning for your health retirement. Really, it's planning for your health every day. The official recommendation is about 0.8 grams per kilograms of body weight, roughly 50 to 60 grams for the average adult. So one cooked chicken breast pretty much is about 6 ounces. That fulfills that goal. And any other protein that you eat from, let's say, your dairy, like your yogurt, to your cheese, to your protein powders, to extra like meat or eggs, all that is extra. And this isn't including all the protein that you're getting from your whole grains, your nuts, your seeds, your legumes, and beans. They all have protein, a lot of protein. So unless you are bodybuilding or exercising and want to build muscle mass, like bodybuilders or athletes, or if you're pregnant or recovering from surgery or have a wound to heal, you probably don't need excess protein. So there are special circumstances which make your body need more protein, but it's not just protein that people need. And that's why pregnant moms are asked to take a prenatal vitamin. For the rest of us, excess protein is excessive stress. Fun fact, there is no way to store excess protein. Have you ever been tempted at the store, there's a big sale and you want to buy everything because it's so cheap. And then you realize you have absolutely no room in your house to store it, but you still buy it anyway. So what happens? Your house just ends up in clutter, right? And in America, what do? We rent storage space for that junk. And what does that do to your finances? You basically now have to pay rent for that storage space for the stuff that you actually don't need to use. And that's a financial stress. And when you decide to stop renting that storage space, now you got to get rid of all that stuff. And moving it is also stressful. Likewise, moving protein in your body is stressful. And as protein has to get broken down. And in that process, your liver and your kidneys have to process pretty toxic stuff. And they both have to work right. Otherwise, you get sick quite quickly. It's working overtime to deal with protein waste. And protein, any excess, needs to get broken down because there's no way for your body to store it. Protein is made out of amino acids. They are the building blocks of proteins. Notice the name has the word acid. And what happens when you eat more acids? You're changing the pH of your blood. However, your body won't let that happen. It will compensate to get rid of the acids. And you don't just want to get rid of it into thin air. You can't do that. You have to eliminate it. It becomes a waste. And specifically, it gets urinated out. So that means the more protein you eat, the more acidic your urine will be. And do you know what happens when your urine gets more acidic? Well, things start precipitating out, like minerals. You got a lot of minerals in your blood, right? Calcium, magnesium, these are all minerals. And when you have a giant collection of minerals, you have a little pebble. But in your urinary tract, that little pebble will be more like a stone. And these are painful. Kidney stones, ureter stones, bladder stones, they're all painful. I've never had one. I hope never to get one. But my dad had a kidney stone and he looked wiped out. I've never seen him sick in my entire life until he had that kidney stone. Then he was throwing up all day and he was bedridden on the couch with excruciating back pain. That's actually why I became a doctor, because I felt so helpless. And this man had a high pain tolerance. Both men and women can get kidney stones. And people describe it to be worse than childbirth, because at least at the end of childbirth, moms get a nice little prize, right? At the end of trying to give birth to your stone, you probably get a lot of relief, but that's about it. Out of 20 total amino acids, guess how many are essential? Just 9. You only need 9 essential amino acids. That means you have to get them from food. The rest your body can make. So technically 11 are extra. Animal proteins contain all essential amino acids and non-essential amino acids. Those extra ones, and a lot of them. But if you eat animal protein in excess, you're also getting excess amounts of essential amino acids, which no longer become essential if you get enough of them, kind of, but it's still required for you to eat. So, and of those essential amino acids, there are ones that are called branch chain amino acids: leucine, isoleucine, and valine. If you're a bodybuilder, you've probably heard these terms. It's because you want to get them to stimulate muscle growth. But in high doses, they've been linked to insulin resistance, weight gain, shorter lifespan. And why are these amino acids potentially dangerous in excess? Well, they stimulate muscle growth, but think about it. When you eat food, does it just go straight to your muscles? It's circulating all over your body, in your blood, going to all your tissues. So these amino acids activate growth pathways, such as insulin-like growth factor 1 and mTOR in other tissues. These growth pathways do literally that, stimulate growth. And this is why they're linked to premature aging and chronic diseases. So IGF-1, or insulin-like growth factor 1, that's a hormone that promotes growth and cell division. And it plays a critical role when you're growing up as a child, and it helps to maintain muscle and bone when you're an adult. However, chronically elevated, abnormally high levels of IGF-1, they've been linked to faster aging, increased oxidative stress, and a higher risk of cancer, especially prostate cancer, breast cancer, and colorectal cancers, because IGF-1 encourages cells, including cancer cells and precancerous cells, damaged cells, to grow and divide rapidly. And your IGF-1 levels are strongly influenced by diet, particularly by consuming large amounts of animal protein and dairy. And on the other hand, plant-based diets full of protein tend to have lower IGF-1 levels, which contributes probably to the protective effects against cancer and age-related diseases. Studies show that individuals with modern IGF-1 levels, not too high and not too low, tend to live the longest, striking a balance between maintenance and regeneration. In longevity science, managing IGF-1 through diet, especially by reducing excess animal protein, is seen as one of the most powerful nutritional levers to slow aging and reduce disease risks. There's another reason why plant proteins may extend life, and it comes down to one single amino acid, methionine. Methionine is an essential amino acid. Your body can't make it, so you need to get it in your diet. But here's the catch. Excess methionine, well, that may accelerate aging. And animal proteins, especially red meat, eggs, and dairy, they're loaded with methionine. In contrast, plant proteins like beans, lentils, and grains tend to have much lower levels of methionine. And why this matters? Well, in multiple studies, when animals are fed low methionine diets, they live significantly longer. Methionine restriction has been shown to reduce oxidative stress, lower IGF-1 levels, improve mitochondrial function, and activate longevity pathways like autophagy. I mean, people are buying all different kinds of supplements to activate autophagy, to improve their mitochondrial function. And what if it's as easy as just skipping some methionine? It's essentially a form of dietary signal that tells the body, slow down growth, prioritize repair. So some longevity researchers now believe methionine may play a role as big as calories when it comes to lifespan. After all, notice how people are recommending fasting because it activates autophagy. So when you're not eating methionine. And the same people who advocate for fasting also advocate for a ton of meat with methionine. So if meat was so healthy, then why do you need to fast from it? Whereas if you ate a plant-based diet, it's so healthy that you actually need to eat it every day. In fact, when you're swapping that chicken breast or egg scramble for lentils or tofu, you're not just eating fewer calories. You're dialing down the cellular aging process. And you're kind of doing a fasting mimicking diet when you are fasting from animal protein. It's not about being deficient. It's about precision nutrition, feeding your body just enough, exactly what it needs and not more. And just that tiny swap, a 3% swap of protein from animal sources to plant sources, well, that can increase your lifespan by 10 to 34%, depending on what kind of animal protein you're taking off your plate.
Hi, friends. I am so thrilled that you want to take charge of your health and take charge of your food. Now, I know nutrition can be complex, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm here to support you in this lifelong journey. So if you point your camera app to this QR code, it'll take you to a link for a free handout that I created just for you. And if you like it, if you want to see other handouts, please go to the link in my show notes and then you can leave me your feedback on what I could do to help you in your journey. Okay, back to the video now.
The biggest bang for your buck would be red meat, especially processed red meat like hot dogs. Reducing 3% of that kind of protein like hot dogs and switching it to plant protein can lower your risk of mortality by 34%. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people afraid to give up protein because of the kwashiorkor myth, which was the origin of this protein obsession that we have. So let's take a step back and talk about where this whole protein obsession began. In the early 20th century, doctors, they started seeing a malnutrition condition in children in parts of Africa, especially Ghana. It was called kwashiorkor, marked by really large bellies and really thin arms and legs, muscle wasting, and then they would have skin lesions. And scientists at the time believed it was caused by not getting enough protein, despite the fact that children weren't getting enough calories. Now, the case seemed clear. This was assumed to be a protein deficiency disease. Remember all the commercials for donation? This diagnosis sparked a global panic about the so-called protein gap, especially in poorer countries. So suddenly, international aid programs were pumping in powdered milk, meat-based formulas, and protein-fortified cereals. Protein became the golden nutrient, and its reputation has stuck with us for decades, even today. But here's what most people didn't know. The very doctor who helped define kwashiorkor, Dr. Cicely Williams, later admitted that the world had misunderstood her. She publicly condemned the way companies use her research to push their high-protein products and said that the real problem wasn't just a lack of protein. It was poverty, dirty water, infections, and an overall lack of nourishing whole foods, not just meat and milk. Kwashiorkor, as it turns out, isn't caused by eating too little protein alone. I see protein deficient adults all the time because they don't eat enough calories. Nobody has extended bellies, and the ones with enlarged bellies have some kind of obstruction in their portal veins. I've never seen an adult with kwashiorkor or an adult who had the constellation of symptoms of kwashiorkor caused by the so-called protein deficiency. Hence, this disease never made any sense to me. Yet many healthcare workers still believe that it's true and it's due to protein deficiency. Well, I have news for everybody. It's not. It's due to a combination of problems. While it does occur in malnourished children who happen also to be protein deficient as well as calorie deficient and essential nutrient deficient, especially when you're in low-income countries, research now has shown that it's a mix of factors, including gut dysfunction, oxidative stress, microbial imbalances, and chronic infections, especially parasitic or bacterial. These infections damage the intestinal lining and reduces absorption of nutrients. And due to that perfect storm, it triggers the right inflammation to cause fluid retention. Kwashiorkor is a complex syndrome, not simply from a lack of protein. And its misinterpretation has helped fuel a global over-evaluation of protein, particularly from animal sources. So while the Western world was increasing meat and dairy intake to prevent that protein gap that they didn't have, it moved us towards a different danger, increasing the rates of diseases, chronic diseases like diabetes, obesity, and cancers. And yet we're blaming the obesity and diabetes crisis on just sugar. It's not just sugar. You have to have saturated fat with sugar for this system to work. So remember how we had the low-fat craze, yet more people became diabetic and obese? This is because they never cut down the fat. And they just ate more food, a ton of refined carbs and protein. And let's get the story right. Animal sources, beef, chicken, fish, dairy, eggs, they don't just give you protein. They are delivered in a package with saturated fat, with cholesterol, with heme iron, and other inflammatory compounds. Let's say TMAO, trimethylamine oxides, and advanced glycation end products. In study after study, people with higher animal protein intake, especially from red processed meats, they show an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, strokes, certain cancers, especially colon, breast, prostate. So when you eat animal proteins, you're not just getting protein. It's packaged with saturated fat and whatever toxins the animal has collected, like dioxins in that saturated fat. It's trapped there. So when you eat fat, you're going to get more than just fat. You have toxins in your own fat cells. And that's why it's recommended that nursing women don't rapidly lose weight, because toxins will leach into their breast milk to pass to their nursing children. Hence, when you eat animal proteins, let's say from seafood, you're getting whatever that animal collected from swimming in that toilet bowl we call the ocean. Heavy metals, arsenic, microplastics. And when you eat land animals, you're also getting heme iron, which is known to cause colon cancer and other pro-inflammatory compounds. So unlike plants, when you eat plant proteins like beans, lentils, whole grains, and nuts and seeds, you get fiber that buffers the rate at which you absorb the protein. It slows down calorie absorption, whether that's protein or sugars. And it also feeds your microbiome to reduce inflammation. Remember, kwashiorkor is inflammation in the gut microbiome. And in addition, when you eat that fiber, you're getting antioxidants that are trapped in the fiber to further help you reduce inflammation. Somehow, the meat industry has convinced people that plant proteins are inferior to animal proteins. They're not complete. Well, all plants have all essential amino acids for your health. You just have to eat enough of them. But plant proteins are lower in certain amino acids, like methionine. And that's why we need to eat a variety of plant foods over the course of the day. This gives your body a variety of nutrients without excessive toxins, excessive buildup. Yes, animal proteins are more absorbable. That's why you absorb so much of them when you eat animal proteins. Hence, you don't need that much. Sure, plants have their own toxins. They have pesticides. They have anti-nutrients. They have heavy metals. Well, it turns out that you actually absorb less because of that fiber. And when you trap things in fiber, since you can't digest a lot of fiber, a significant portion of what you eat just gets pooped out. But if you don't eat plants with, let's say, your animal proteins, you will absorb a lot of that protein very efficiently. And once it gets in your system, you still have to break it down and when you don't use it. And that process stresses your liver and your kidneys. They need to work overtime to deal with the waste. Notice how when you don't eat plants, you don't poop well. And the longer you are constipated, the higher the toxins become. Your own body can't even get rid of your own toxins like excess estrogen. You know, a lot of people with estrogen sensitive cancers like breast cancers, they worry about their estrogen levels. If you're concerned about your estrogen levels, then you should think twice about eating female animals, right? They have estrogen too. And then you got to make sure you're pooping every day. You know how many times cows poop? If you've ever walked by a cattle ranch, you can really smell their poop, right? You're like in their bathroom with them. They poop so much that they are the biggest polluters on this earth, more than cars. And these dairy cattle, well, guess what? They're all female. So they have a ton of estrogen in their poop and in their urine. And this contaminates our water supply. So between contaminating our air with the suffocating stench of cow manure and then global warming with their methane gas to contaminating our water with their estrogenic hormones, I say we're paying a pretty high price as a global community so that people can get their protein fix. And this is why a diverse plant-forward diet isn't just sufficient, it's protective for you and our environment. Now let's zoom out and look at the world's longest living populations. Pick a blue zone. You know, you have a lot to choose from. Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia, Italy, and people regularly live past 100. And what do they all have in common? They eat mostly plants. They are a plant-centered diet. They eat beans, lentil, tofu, and whole grains as their staples, full of protein. Sure, they eat meat, but sparingly, not like Americans. Nothing is supersized. And meat is often reserved for special occasions. And these people, they're not counting their grams of protein. They're just eating real food as a community. They are thriving. And here's the objection that I hear all the time. Where am I going to get my protein? Don't I need animal protein to build muscle? No, not at all. Studies show that plant-based athletes can perform just as well and probably even better than meat eaters, provided they eat enough calories and enough variety. Plant proteins can be just as effective for muscle repair, strength, and endurance. Think about the top athletes, Novak Djokovic, Venus Williams, or ultra-endurance runners like Rich Roll. They're thriving on plant power. And the myth about plant protein being incomplete, that's outdated. As long as you eat a mix of plant foods throughout the day, some grains, beans, nuts, and seeds, you get all 9 essential amino acids. And by the way, we have a blue zone in our community. That's called Loma Linda, the 7-Day Adventist. So how do you make the shift? It doesn't require going vegan. It just means being more intentional about your protein sources. So here are some simple, easy swaps. Lentils instead of ground beef in pasta or chili. Or mix it half and half as a transition. Tofu instead of chicken in your stir fry. Again, mix it as a half and half transition if you need that transitional state. You know, pea protein shake instead of whey protein shakes. Black bean burgers instead of beef burgers. Hummus or nut butters instead of cheese or deli meat in your sandwiches. And even one plant-based meal a day can make a huge difference. And you may be worried about convenience. Canned beans? Just rinse them. They are so convenient. Frozen edamame bean? Just take them out and microwave them. Pre-cooked grains? Make it so easy to get your protein needs. Make sure they're whole grains and not just rice. The protein obsession is real, but the science tells us a different story. We don't need more protein. We need better protein. Animal protein is aging us faster, raising our risk of diseases faster faster, shortening our lives faster. But plant protein, that's the stuff that promotes longevity, lowers inflammation, fuels real sustainable health for us and our planet. You don't need to fear protein. You just need to rethink how to get it and open your taste buds to a whole new way to get your protein. They are delicious. And if you want to learn more about how to make the right substitutes and turn them into delicious meals, watch the next video.